Hi and welcome to The Courageous Collective, the podcast where we celebrate diverse women who dare to do things differently. I'm Rupa Baradva, a copywriter and communication specialist. I work with women entrepreneurs to help them get clear on their brand messaging, and I help them become more visible to their target customers using PR.
And I'm Vardeep Edwards, founder of The Branding Fox, a design consultancy that supports women in business with their branding and design needs. After working in corporate roles, we both took the leap into self-employment and created our own businesses where our skills and experience could really shine. But something we both noticed was the lack of women that looked like us at events, on speaker panels, and in the media.
Which is why we created the Courageous Collective podcast. This is our platform to celebrate and champion diverse women who are smashing it in their businesses. In each episode, we speak to a female founder about the story behind their business. We explore their inspirations, the challenges they faced and how they've dealt with them. And we talk about what they're yet to achieve.
Welcome to the Courageous Collective and enjoy today's episode.
Hi there, welcome to a new episode of the Courageous Collective. Today we're joined by Anita Popat, a social media coach based in Leicester. Anita works with small business owners to help them build their Instagram and LinkedIn. However, with so many people offering the same services, it's been difficult to connect with potential customers. That is until she embraced being an introvert last year. She's since pivoted her business and is now helping introvert business owners to show up consistently on Instagram and LinkedIn. Anita strongly believes that you can build an engaged social media following without having to lip sync, create dancing reels, or have a feed full of selfies. We can't wait to hear your advice, Anita. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Anita, I'm so excited to speak with you today and hear a bit more about you and your business. Do you want to just tell us a bit more about your career history and sort of what the journey you've had to setting up this business? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So from a young age, I always knew I wanted to do business and marketing because I've been a creative since I was tiny. I've been surrounded by entrepreneurs. So my grandparents, like both sets, were tailors. They both made clothes. We had our own shops, and my grandma used to teach me like all the craft stuff when I was younger. So I always knew that I wanted to do something creative. And when I was at sort of GCSE and A-level, I always did business studies. So I knew I wanted to do business, and I knew I wanted to do something in marketing. So like all throughout, I did the whole sort of school uni thing. But I wasn't really attracted to the whole corporate life. I really wanted to work in an organisation where I could make some sort of a difference. So I applied to a sort of a local small business, and it was just a sales admin role just to start with, because I thought, okay, let me just see what that happened. That was only supposed to be like for a year or so until I found like my proper job. I ended up staying there for 13 years.
Right.
So that is my career history, basically. Because so I worked my way up. So I had a really good boss, to be fair. She knew I wanted to do marketing. So while I was there, I did like the sales admin, and then I eventually they looked after Next and New Look. So I project managed installations for all of the Next and New Look stores in the UK. So that's where my sort of strategy and time management, OCD, planningness comes into place, because there was a lot of people to juggle. And then I eventually sort of got given the marketing manager role, because by that time I had a load of side hustles as well. So I was doing my 9 to 5, but then I was doing my side hustles, and my manager was just like, well, do you want to do the marketing for us? And I was like, yeah. So I was basically like the one woman marketing department. So it was really nice because I got a chance, but I was basically doing every single thing under the hat of marketing. But social media was my jam. But it was nice to be able to just make decisions by myself, and I could see the impact, because it was a small business and a local business. I could directly see the impact that my work was having, which really spurred me on. And I knew, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I really love doing this. So yeah, and then I used to host marketing events and networking events. So I built a strong network in the local community. And then it was kind of like 4 years or so into that role, and it was like 13 years, and I was like, right, I need to like do something with my life. So this coaching stuff was a distant dream. So my side hustles were built like after I got married, so maybe 14 years ago alongside that. So I always had a 9 to 5, then I used to go home and then I used to do like personalized wooden stuff, hand-lettered prints. I used to be a hen artist. So I used to do all of that, everything, like after work. And then when I was networking, people obviously saw that and they used to be like, oh, how are you doing this? Like, does social media even work? Like, do you actually make money? I was like, yeah, it's brilliant. So then I used to just give advice and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. And I used to think, oh, I would love to do this full time. But I just didn't have the guts because, like secure income and all that. But yeah, then in my day job, I just thought, right, and all my sort of work besties started to leave and stuff. And I was like, right, I need to, if I don't do something now, I'm literally going to stay here for like the rest of my life. So I just thought, okay, so now or never thing, and let's see what happens. And that was a very it's not a normal moment for me. I'm the normal, stable, like, just like carry on and don't take any risk type of person. But I just went for it because I don't have kids. My home life was okay, and I had my side hustle too. Like, and I thought, okay, I'll just build on that if this doesn't work. So I had nothing to lose basically. So yeah, I handed my notice in, and I was lucky because I had a network of people already. So I pretty much, as soon as I announced that I was going on my own, I had people saying, yeah, like, let's have a chat and see what you can do with us. So that's basically my journey in a nutshell.
That's amazing, isn't it? And I think I know I relate, and I wonder if some of our listeners will relate, and you as well, Rupa, having that kind of non-linear journey where you start off and where you think you're going to be in maybe 20 odd years' time to where you actually are and what's happened to kind of get to that stage. It's never quite what you predict or expect.
Not at all. The whole reason this started was because I went to a business basics course, and I thought, okay, like when I was on my own, when I'd left the job, and I was like, okay, I might as well just make sure I've got the foundations for my side hustle, in place, just to make sure that's running okay in case this doesn't work. And while I was there, I was basically coaching the women in the room because they all had like stuff on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And the trainer was like, Anita, you need to do this and still keep your craft stuff like on the side, but this needs to be your full-time role. And I was like, I'd love to do it. And they're like, why don't you? I was like, because I don't have like I had all this like experience, like 13 years of experience behind me, but because I didn't have like a piece of paper to say you're qualified to do social media, I thought I wasn't qualified. So, but I was, obviously, because I've been doing it for so many years. And so I was supposed to write a business plan for my side hustle, but instead I wrote a business plan for my social media job, literally in like an hour. That decision changed. So yeah, really, really made the decision on a whim, but I'm so glad I did.
Oh, and thank you so much for sharing that with us, Anita. I think, as Vardeep said, I definitely hear so many things that we've heard previously from other speakers, but also myself as well, wearing multiple hats. I mean, that must have been quite tricky doing that while also doing what sounds like a very busy, full-on job as well. Talk to me about going into self-employment kind of full-time. Was it easy to get your family on board, get your partner on board? Was it, you talk about having this kind of qualification as well to do the job that you eventually, are doing now. But what kind of steps did you put in place to actually, leave? Or was it just, that's it, I'm doing it and I'm out of here kind of thing? Just talk us through that.
Yeah, so in terms of qualifications, I have a marketing degree, so I am qualified in marketing, but obviously social media was very new because I'm quite old now. It was just starting when I'd left uni, so yeah. But in terms of sort of preparing myself, I kind of gave myself a year. So I wasn't like, okay, I'm leaving straight away kind of thing. I made sure I had like savings and I had stuff in place because even though like you can make like the 6 figures or whatever, it's not a quick thing. So when you're starting out, it takes time to build momentum and make the money and get yourself known and stuff. So I made sure I had like enough finances to pay the bills and stuff. And then I basically just thought, I knew I was going, so I made sure in my day job, I was just preparing and making sure, like, doing all the documents and things, making sure people knew what I did so they could take over. But in terms of like family and my hubby, I'm very lucky. They were very supportive. My mom, obviously, she thinks like when you're working from home, you're not actually working. So she was just like, yeah. So if I'm going to an office, she's like, oh, it's good. You've got a job. You're like, you work. You've got work. I'm like, no, but I work every day. But no, I've been very lucky. I haven't had the whole pressure to do like, go down the path of like be a doctor or whatever. I've been very lucky, and they've been very supportive in whatever we've done. So I did like art and German for GCSE and A levels and stuff, which is not normal for an Indian girl. But they're literally fine. They're like, whatever makes you happy, do that. And my husband was very supportive as well, because he'd seen that I was really passionate about doing what I'm doing. He just basically went and go for it and see what happens. So yeah, I don't know if that is lucky or not, but I feel very privileged to have the support of family around and friends around me, because I think it makes the world of a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I did art A level as well, so I had the same reaction from some family members. Yeah, it's it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely need that support around you. Make a huge difference, because it's quite a big step to start running your own business, and it's even harder if you don't feel like you've got the support, to help you on that journey. And do you know what? I'm really interested to know how you got into targeting introverts, because that's what you do, social media marketing for introverts. So you started marketing into social media marketing, and now social media coach specifically for introverts. How did you get to that stage?
So I started off with doing social media management when I first started, because I had a kind of a pool of people who are ready to want that service anyway. But obviously, as I've gone on and my business has grown, I've kind of figured out what I like doing and what I don't. And I really love coaching and teaching and giving people the tools to do it themselves, because I feel like you know your business the best, and like, no matter how much I try and replicate the way you talk and like your style and stuff, you are the person that can do it the best. And I feel like it comes across when it comes from an authentic place. So I knew I wanted to do that. And it was only sort of last year, it's been, June last year, it's been a year since I decided to niche down when I had COVID. And I was just lying there thinking, right, what should I do now? Like when you're in this especially in social media, there's so many coaches and everyone does social media, or so it feels like. It's like, how can I differentiate myself in a way that feels really true to me? Because my whole message is like using social media in a way that feels true to you. And although I was doing that, I still felt I was in quite a big, like there was a big pool of people I was like sort of in with. And I was just looking at sort of the kind of clients that I attracted, how I was, and there were clients like me, because you naturally attract people who are like you, right? And they're all introverted. And I was reading like Susan Cain's Quiet and just all the stuff around the introvert space. And I was like, you know what? I'm an introvert, so I know how it feels like to be an introvert and try and put yourself on social media. So I'm not coming from a place of like, sometimes when you're in social media and you try and come across as an expert, I hate the whole expert guru tag, because you can't know everything about your subject field. So I felt a bit icky when people be like, oh, she's a social media queen or something. I hate that. It just makes me feel like, oh my god, they're expecting me to know everything. But being an introvert who's used social media to build my business, that felt good, because I've done it, and I was coming from a place of, well, I'm just sharing my experience. So that felt more comfortable for me. And because I'm so passionate about helping introverts show up, I feel like that's my true purpose, and that's the kind of the main driver, which I feel is really important for you to help you show up. So that's why I decided I was just like, well, I'm just going to call out people who are like me, because I've been on the same journey, and so it's going to be easy for me to talk about, because it's coming from a place of experience, and hopefully inspire others who are sort of a bit earlier on to think, okay, I can do it too.
And it makes sense. I mean, as I think, self-confessed introvert, definitely I agree. It's quite icky to kind of put yourself out there, especially if you're not comfortable, doing that in kind of real life. So I think it's a brilliant way of niching down. So talk to me how that works in terms of marketing yourself and getting your name out there. You know, what are you doing to build your network, attract those clients? Particularly, as you said, you know, these people identify as introverts. So how do you find them, and how do you become more visible? What's your experience of that been like?
Okay, so first, I feel like we need to define like what an introvert is and what it isn't, because I think there's so many misconceptions about introverts. So people think introverts are like really shy, really quiet, antisocial sometimes. That can be, but that's like a personality trait. Introversion is more about like energy management. So like we can still be outgoing. Like I love networking and stuff. So it's not, I feel like there's an image of people wanting to just sit at home in their pajamas and like not want to go out. But like
that's not me at all, Anita. No, I'm not like that at all.
Have your recharge days, but like I just want to bust the myth that introverts can still do like stuff that's outgoing, but it's just the way we like manage their energy. So when introverts basically, when we're out in like socializing and in big groups and stuff, it takes a lot of energy, whereas for extroverts, they thrive on that energy, so that's how they recharge. But introverts, that drains us, so we need to make sure we give ourselves time to sort of recharge afterwards. So if I've got like a big event, or I've got a networking event, or if I've been on Zoom all day or something like that, I'll make sure I put time in my diary, like the next day, maybe a morning or something, just to chill and have a bit of a lazy morning just to recharge, rather than like doing go. Whereas for an extrovert, they might just have a full week of like social events and stuff, and that would be like amazing for them. But for me, that would be like I could do it, but I would be pooped like by the end of the week. So that's the difference. So in terms of like how I keep myself visible and how I market myself, networking, like especially sort of local networking, making sure I'm visible in the local community is a big thing for me. Obviously social media, and making sure I'm part of Facebook groups and communities where my ideal clients hang out, but also doing things like this. So since I've put sort of the introversion niche out, I've had so many requests for like podcasts and guest like trainings in groups and things like that. So that's my main things: networking, social media, and then like podcasting and guest training now. But again, and then lives I do sort of like, which was really icky at the start. But the way I kind of got over that was doing it with other people, so doing it interview style, which made it much more like this, like a conversation, rather than feeling like the spotlight was on me. Mm-hmm. So I kind of do loads of different things, but I tried loads of different things, but they're the things that are working for me and feel comfortable for me, so they're the things I do.
Sure, I think that's so important, Anita, and I think you hit the nail on the head with it being about energy, because I'm also an introvert, but I don't have a problem being sociable, going out and going to events, but yes, I'm like that. So if I've had a busy week, for example, I know I need to factor in time to just chill out at the weekend, because I just need to kind of restore myself, it feels like, you know, and it's so interesting. Yeah, and if I go to a big event, I need to have nothing else really going on for the rest of that week. I do enjoy it, and I do enjoy going it, but yeah, it's amazing how it plays out in your energy afterwards.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that it's okay. Like it's okay to take time out. I feel like when you're entrepreneurs as well, especially on social media, you're bombarded with like the hustle culture and like, you know, being on all the time and like, you know, do this, do that, do that. And it's like, no, like when I first started, I was the same, and then I'm just like, you only realize after, as you go on, well, I did anyway, that no, it's okay. Like I'm going to do this my way, because that way doesn't work for me. And that's fine. Like take the time you need, because you're going to be more recharged and you're going to do better work after you've been recharged, rather than trying to plow through stuff like, you know, the low energy stuff. Just go out for a walk, or, you know, do whatever you need to do. It's okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important, isn't it, when you're marketing yourself, especially if it is just you, that you've got to do it in a way that works for you, because you need to be able to sustain it. You know, there's a lot of advice, isn't there, out there online, particularly, you know, of you've got to do this and you've got to do that. But, you know, really, you've just got to take what's going to work with you in your sort of personality type as well. I'm just on that sort of note, you may have already sort of answered it, but in terms of helping introverts with social media, is that kind of what you do then, kind of help find their way to market and use social media for their individual personality?
Yes. So I'm very big on like strategy. So making sure, although I have like my content collabs and like about just one-off stuff. I'm very big on helping people find like the why or the intention. Why are you doing like what you're doing? What is the reason behind the content that you're putting out? So I help them build a strategy. So I call it a U-shaped strategy for that very reason. It's to make sure that it's really comfortable for them to show up. Because otherwise, like we said, if I teach you strategies that you're not going to feel comfortable with, you're not going to do it and you're not going to sustain it, and then you're just going to be like, oh, this feels really hard. So I work with people to figure out, so when we talk about strategy, it's like the whole start to finish, like, why are you doing this? Who are you talking to? What do they need to hear from you? What's your message? What kind of content? Even like with content, it's so, if we take Instagram, for example, there's so many different types of content. Now, I like carousels, and my carousels are pretty much like mini blogs, and they work really well for me. I could do reels, and I did start off doing the pointy stuff and the lip syncing, and I was just like, really, I'm not doing this. So I found a way to do reels in a way that works for me, just because of like, you know, the potential for growth and stuff. And then stories, I still kind of like, I can do lives, no problem. But the talky stories, for some reason, I just can't do them. Like, I just find them really icky. So I don't do them. I just, I'll normally in the morning, I'll just take a picture and then write what I'm doing for the day, which also works. So again, like, I don't feel pressured to do like what you don't feel comfortable with, because just do what feels comfortable to you. And it doesn't matter like what, if people say this is the in thing, just, I think it comes across better when you're doing what feels natural and comfortable to your audience as well.
I love that advice of Anita, because I think feeling comfortable on social media is such a big thing, because you see some things and you're like, that doesn't look actually that authentic. And actually, if you're, you know, expecting people to buy from you, you do want to show yourself in that best light, and obviously in your truest light as well. Let's talk about confidence. We'd love to know what you've done to build your own confidence. And, you know, you come across really well, and, you know, you've talked about your journey of how you've built up this business. How have you kind of built your confidence in kind of doing this?
Yeah, so I was always a quiet one growing up. So I feel like when you are your own business, you kind of have to put yourself out there, because no one else is going to do it for you. So the way I did that was, like, confidence comes from experience and doing. But when you're starting out, you kind of don't have that. So I made sure I surrounded myself with people who are in the same industry as me. So I can, like, I've got a sounding board with people who get it, but also people who are like maybe like a few steps ahead, like for the inspiration and, like, you know, where do I go? When you're on your own, you're just like, okay, there's so many things, like so many directions I can go in, like, where do I go? So having a group of sort of a coaching group where I can go and ask questions and stuff, and just be around, like, for me, like, women in business who are like over there where I want to be. And knowing that, being around, they just have different thoughts, and the way they act and the way they think and the way they sort of manage their time and stuff. And it's just like, you just soak it all up. So I would say surround yourself with people. They say like you're like the sum of, the 5 people around you. So surround yourself. I always surround myself with positive people. If there's people who are like, oh, why are you doing that? I'm just like, go away, like, you know, leave me alone. Surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people who are where you want to be. And I think it's important to have people in your industry as well, because sometimes people are like, oh, why you meet? When I first started out, I met with a lot of social media managers and people in the social media space, and like, I think of them as collaborators. And there were some people who didn't want to meet, and they were like, oh, and we used to have conversations as to, like, well, I'm not going to steal your competition or anything. We're just genuinely like trying to make friends. So I think it's important to see people as collaborators and not competition, because there's so many different ways people work, and so many ways that you can all work together and, like, you know, refer each other to each other's networks and things like that as well. So yeah, surrounding myself with positive people and just trying things out. Like, I'm always trying things out to see, like, what would stick, and, like, this introvert thing. It's always like, I tend to go with my gut. I know it sounds a bit woo, maybe not, but sometimes I'm like, oh, this, like, if it really excites me and I'm really like, oh my god, like, I wonder what happens if I do this, I'll just put it out and see what happens. Sometimes it flops, sometimes it'll fly, like the content collabs. literally came from a conversation I was having in a group, and she said, you know what, Anita, I would love it if you just, because she was talking about how she can't sit down and plan her content, she just can't do it. And I just went, well, if I created a group where, like, you know, we just planned content, we just sat and planned content for a couple of hours, would you come? She's like, yeah, I'd love that. So that's literally how Content Collab was, and I've been doing that for a good few years now. So just try. I'd say don't be scared to experiment. Just try things out. That's the whole like point of entrepreneurship. There's no right way of doing things. Like, just do things the way that feel good for you, and they always work out.
That's such great advice. And I think, you know, I think we're all a bit woo, or I definitely am a little bit. I would say the thing about, you know, doing things from your gut, and if you've got a real fire in your belly to do something, it will really propel you to actually get that thing out there and launch. And, you know, you will just bring the energy naturally, rather than something that you're not 100% convinced by. How on earth are you going to actually get that out there and, you know, encourage people to get involved or buy or whatever it is that you're doing? So yeah, 100% agree with everything you've shared. Really helpful advice.
I think it comes across. I think the energy comes across as well. That might sound like woo as well, but when you're writing from a place of excitement and like, oh my God, this is so good, like I can't wait to have people on it, I think it comes across in the content.
Absolutely, you know, and people buy into people. So if you haven't quite got that energy or connection with what you're doing, it feeds off, doesn't it, as well, when people get that. So yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with that. So Anita, we couldn't not have you on our podcast and ask you about social media. It moves so quickly. Just for sort of disclosure, I did a social media strategy course a few years ago now, but I stopped sort of offering that as a service because I could not keep up with the many changes. Do you sort of look at predictions for social media? Do you sort of have any advice or tips or sort of takeaways for our listeners?
Yeah, so because there were so many changes, that's the reason I've just focused on Instagram and LinkedIn, because I couldn't keep up myself. So I would say, in terms of social media, the first thing I would say is, like, if you're using it from a business point of view, don't spread yourself too thin. I'm on most platforms because, like, I'm in social media, but like, focus on one or two and do them really well. But more importantly, make sure they're ones where your ideal clients are hanging out at as well. In terms of predictions, I think there's a massive move towards like being really authentic and raw. Now, I don't know if you know, especially on like LinkedIn, if you look at how it's changed over COVID, particularly, like, it's not the whole stuffy corporate suited and booted environment that it used to be. I'm actually really enjoying being on LinkedIn now. It's like Facebook was like 10 years ago. Everyone's really supportive and people are sharing. So storytelling, I think, was and still is a big part, because there's so many people doing the same thing as you. I think the whole storytelling, showing like you as a person, which can feel a bit icky, but you don't have to share like everything, but just bits of who you are, is a big shift in how we're doing business at the moment, because I think it's more human to human rather than like, and connecting with stories and experiences rather than the actual, like, you know, tips and tricks and stuff, although that's important. So I think that, like, unpolished, raw content, that's kind of a vibe at the moment. And then AI.
I know, I was waiting for that.
So in particular, obviously I've tested it out because for the name of work. So the ones I've tried out is obviously ChatGPT, and then Canva. I live on. So that's introduced so many AI tools in terms of like image creation, but it's also got like a thing called Magic Write where it can write stuff for you as well. So AI I don't think it's something to be afraid. Some people are like, oh, it's going to take over. I don't think you can take over humans, but we can work, like, it's there for us to use. We can work alongside it. And I think it's amazing if your mind has literally gone blank and you just want some ideas, like in terms of idea journey, it's really good for just getting ideas, and so you don't have that whole like blank page thing. And then you can, my advice would be just to see what it chucks out. But you have to be quite specific with what you want it to say as well, otherwise it will just come out with, I don't know if you've used it, but it will just come out with random.
Yeah, I've used it quite a bit. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I've been I didn't use it as a chat before, so now I've used it as if I'm talking to a person, and it's helped me a lot. But yeah, to use it alongside it, and when you get the suggestions, I would say just have a look to see what you like and tweak it in your own language. Because even though you say, like, I might say write this in a chatty and informal style, it's not going to write how I write. But I did try, and I did ask it to write in a Leicester accent once, just for fun. And
how was that?
It was hilarious. It's got an A up, B duck. So you got that right. But no, it's interesting. But I would say don't be scared of AI. It's use it alongside your marketing for ideas and stuff, but still edit it to make it in your own voice.
Love that. And I think, being at the forefront of technology and actually experimenting rather than kind of retreating and kind of being fearful of what it is actually a really valuable piece of advice, Anita. I mean, you've shared such great advice with us on this podcast. So first of all, thank you for doing that. Is there anything else that you would want to share with our listeners? We have people who may be considering taking the leap into self-employment. Any advice for them and what they should be doing, could be doing?
Yeah, I'd say if you're thinking about it, I'd say go for it. And don't worry about sort of having it all figured out, because like we kind of demonstrated here, it doesn't always go in a straight line. So the main thing is just to start and surround yourself with people who are sort of on the journey, and you're going to have pivots along the way, but just go with the flow, and you'll figure out what you like and what you don't like. And I feel like if you trust the process, things do fall into place. But the important thing is to have a really strong purpose to motivate you, because if you don't have that, it's not always rainbows. Sometimes it does get hard, and you're just gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna get a full-time job. But on those days, you're gonna be like, no, this is why I'm doing it, which is why it's important to have the strong thing, and that will keep you going. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that. That's really helpful.
Yeah, Anita, thank you. I feel like we could carry on talking. There's so many little nuggets that I'd love to talk to you more on. But no, I really want to say thank you from both Rupa and I so much for joining us today and being a part of the Courageous Collective. It's great to have you as one of our interviewees, and I'm sure our listeners will have some great sort of takeaways as well from our conversation. So yeah, thank you. Where can people find you online and obviously connect with you on social media? And we'll pop your social media handles in the notes as well, but if you want to just sort of give a few places.
Yeah, so I hang out on Instagram and LinkedIn. So Instagram is @it's Anita Popat, and LinkedIn is just my name. So I hang out there, and please come and join me on either of them. And I also have an email list where I send an weekly email called The Snapshot. Every Friday, I do more sort of behind the scenes stuff and unseen tips and the latest updates as well to keep you guys in the loop. So yeah, come and say hello. I'd love to see you there.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get an influx of new followers, Anita. Thank you so much. That's it for this week. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please do keep sharing your feedback with us on social media, and don't forget to hit the follow button on Spotify and Apple, and subscribe to the Courageous Collective. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. The Courageous Collective is created by Rupa Bharadwaj and Vardeep Edwards. We really appreciate your feedback, so please like, share and follow us. Please also subscribe to receive an alert for our next episode.
You can find out where to follow us on social media in the show notes, and if you'd like to be a future guest, please do get in touch. Thanks, and see you soon.